This exercise is a great way to progress a quad or couch and hip flexor stretch. If you're really working on lengthening and loading lengthened positions of your quads and hip flexors, this is a great exercise to do so. If this is new, you're gonna wanna start with a band, but you can progress to a smaller band because the thicker the band, the more assistance you're getting, or eventually using no band. So here is how we're gonna do it with a band. You're gonna get into a kneeling position, and then from there, we wanna make sure that you maintain a stacked rib cage and pelvis. Most people, when they do this, they kind of break this position, and while it is adding load, we are ending up not loading as much of the lengthened position of the hamstrings, of the hip flexors and the quads. So we're gonna hold on to the band. We're gonna maintain the rib cage and pelvis connection. This is a little bit of an ab exercise as well. We're gonna slowly lean back as far as we can tolerate or as low as we can get. Once you're at the bottom position, you're gonna pause for a second, and then you're gonna initiate with your quads push into the ground to pull yourself back up. So you're kind of pushing your feet into the ground, basically doing an extension, the extension machine movement. That's why these are called a natural extension. So again, we're leaning back as far as we can, staying connected here, pausing as soon as we lose that connection or maximize that stretch we feel, and then pulling ourselves back up by pushing our feet into the ground. Now you should feel a really big stretch in your quads, maybe hip flexors a little bit, but it'll be a lot more quads for this exercise. If you feel anything in the back of the knee, that is probably gonna be a pinching sensation. Don't go as deep in the movement or use a little more assistance. We don't wanna push into that. That's a closing angle sensation. The other thing you don't wanna feel is a lot of low back discomfort. If you do, you might be losing your position. So maintain that ribcage and pelvis position. Limit your range of motion, so don't go as far if it only happens at the end, or use a little bit more assistance. As long as you're feeling a stretch in the exercise, you're getting what you need out of it. Now, to progress, you can do these without a band. You're just generally gonna have a little bit less range of motion, which is fine if you're really just working on building strength. I tend to like to mix sets of the two of these just to get a little bit of both max strength and max range of motion. The other thing to note is if you want to limit your range of motion, you can also come up on your toes and lean back like so. You'll also be getting a little bit of a toe mobility stretch as well there. So that's also an option. And generally speaking, you should see that you can go a little bit further. It feels less intense of a stretch. Or if you start and initially you feel like as you lean back, you can't pull yourself forwards, you might have to get a little bit more help from the band. Over time, you might notice that you don't need that as much. All of those would be signs of progress, but in order to achieve those, you're gonna have to be really consistent and patient. So over time, pay attention to those, stay patient, and enjoy all of the gains.